founder of ONYX, and I started this caucus here at IML and at Blackbeat in, probably like 17 years ago. Okay. Well, yeah, the ONYX dance has been around for 19 years, and I think I started this caucus so that we could get together and talk about issues that were germane to us while we were here, gathering at a place like this at IML and at Blackbeat, which no longer exists, but they have, Taisha has started one at Claw, and they do have one at Weekend Reunion, and I know they have some talks at IMSL as well. But a place for people of color to talk about issues that are germane to us, germane to the community, as we are a bridge, as our organizations are bridges into the general leather community. That's what ONYX is all about. And we love the ONYX Pearls are represented here today with Taisha.
You're the only one.
You're the only one. You are just so much. You're more than only. So we thank ONYX and ONYX Pearls for being here. I want to recognize the ONYX chapters that are in the room. ONYX Midwest, if you're in the room, just say hey.
Hey!
Is anyone from the ONYX Northeast with us? Yes. Associate. Anyone from Mid-Atlantic?
How you doing?
We have the president and ONYX Southeast. Rodney. Let's go to ONYX Great Lakes.
Drawing all that.
So nasty and so rude.
Also, ONYX Southwest. Okay, and then we have now chapters in formation in North California, Northwest. I don't know if we have anybody from ONYX Lone Star in formation, Dallas and Houston. I don't think anyone's here representing. And now we have ONYX working title, Deep South, which is South Florida and the Caribbean. Those are in formation, and there's inklings of Pacific Northwest. So we're trying to get up the coast. So with that, I do want to recognize our title holders, because I know sometimes they have to jump out of the room that are competing. The ONYX members that are competing in IML and the other title holders that are competing. We've got Ali, Mr. Long Beach Leather, is competing. We have Danny Rod from ONYX Southeast. We've got Kai from ONYX Mid-Atlantic, the Leatherman of Color from the And we have Gray Owl, who is Mr. DC Eagle, who's competing as well. Other title holders in the room that are competing, we've got Mr. MAL, Mr. Mid-Atlantic Leather here with us. And we want to recognize all the other title holders in the room. If you're in here, just wave your hand. And we've got past title holders, wave your hand. We've got and we have her, Grace. No complex, International Ms. Leather 2017. Not forget, having that. So we've got a whole lot of folks that we did not have 15, 20 years ago. ONYX is 22 years old. celebrate with us in New Orleans in September. Some of us are cruising after that.
Yes.
So we can't get enough of each other. ONYX, what is it? Bayou, what is it called? Bayou. Our anniversary weekend, the last weekend in September in New Orleans. Just go to our website, onyxmen.com, for all of the /blackout for all of the information. But we want to get started. We have a talk, which a panel discussion, which again is going to be just the tip of the iceberg. We're not going to get all the answers today. We're not going to get all the opinions. We're going to get some as our conversations continue, because we are family, and that's what ONYX is all about, bringing us all together as family. Also look for a major People of Color family reunion in 2018 across gender, across sexuality, across leather, across kink in Atlanta at Southeast Leather Conference in June of 2018. We will be convening, we will have a decided People of Color track, we will have hopefully Mike Johnson in the house and other people in the house to give panels on history and things of that nature, and as we enjoy Atlanta. And ONYX Southeast is hosting, as well as the Pearls Southeast, are our people on the ground, and the houses, the People of Color Houses of Leather Leather Coalition is also hosting all that. So there's a lot of stuff coming up. There's a lot of stuff going on. But today we want to talk about the issue that's on the table, and I want to introduce our panelists. The topic today is people of color and the leather community. We talked about this about 10 years ago. So we're coming back around because it's a new crew of people that are with us. And so people of color and the leather community, inclusion then, now, and beyond. That's our topic on today. We'll spend about an hour doing that, and then we have a demo, a fire demo from Sir Eli, ONYX Mid-Atlantic, as well as Lynx, ONYX Chicago, and my boy, who hasn't made it in the room yet, Ray Optimus from ONYX Southeast, and Brother Jura as well from who's here in Chicago. So we have that, which will happen right after the panel, and then we'll go on with everything else this afternoon. Our dance tonight, I can't forget that.
No, you better not.
The ONYX dance at the Cobra Lounge, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Be there. Free shuttle in front of the hotel every half hour, starting at 10:30 on the dot.
Is that going to be like Mark?
Just look for the black people going to the white shuttle.
Yes.
But yes, we'll make sure that we
And let the games begin.
The reading room is open. There are only 2 shuttles from the hotel tonight. One is the shuttle to the North Bar, the Touche, and then one to our dance. Just ask for which shuttle is going where, right in front of the hotel. We will be there tonight, 11 o'clock. Come prepared to sweat, tambourines, all that sort of stuff. Old school, are encouraged. Less is best. There will be a closed check as well. So let's do that this evening. It is the 19th anniversary of our dance. We were the first dance here at IML. Yes. And we are the premier dance at IML, even though we're not in the hotel. So anyway, let's get started. I want to introduce our panelists. I'm just going to tell you who they are, and then they're going to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit, just a smidgen of how they came into the community then, and what inclusion looked like for them when they came into the community. And so I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to go back. We have Mark Montgomery from Chicago, an associate from ONYX Midwest. We've got Q from New York City, a former Mr. New York Eagle. We've got Dominion, who is past president and national board member with ONYX. He's with ONYX Mid-Atlantic. We've got Girl Complex, our international Ms. Leather from California. We've got Mix Onyx, who is a member, a full brother in California, in Onyx Southwest. And we've got Counselor Ojamari Onyx, who is Great Lakes President. Yes. And National Council member for Onyx. And then we have our own media maven, Taisha, from Florida, and Onyx Pearl Southeast, who is the social media coordinator for IML. Yes. And make sure that we get new things.
Yes.
So, and get recognized. So we love her to death, and she's been fierce all week. And I just, just anyway. So let's start with Mark on that end and come around. Just tell us who you are and how you came into the community and what inclusion was like for you then. So we'll do the then we'll do the now, and then we'll do a little bit of the beyond.
So, Mark Montgomery, otherwise known as Angry Black Homo. I came into the community about 5.5.
Can you hear? Speak up, baby.
Yeah, sorry.
Project.
Came into the community about 5.5 years ago in Texas. I had a couple of encounters with Leathermen before that. We'll put it that way. And then I started attending events like in January 2012, so I kind of consider that my starting point. Inclusion was interesting because, I lived in San Antonio, which was like 6.5% black, and gay representation was way less than that. So I primarily came in around white folks and brown folks, so it was an interesting experience, but luckily I kind of came across Onyx early. It kind of gave me that. It gave me that that viewpoint of seeing that there actually are black folks in this scene and they're actually doing things in this scene. So that was important for me. Even being in a sea of white folks, just knowing that was out there was important. And then I moved to Chicago about 3 years ago, and recently became an associate of Midwest, mostly because I'm busy with other activist work. But yeah, that's basically how I came in.
Thank you, Q.
Cool. Hi, my name is Q, aka Dark Wolf. How did I get in here? Very simple. Through the door. Exactly. I entered, I walked in, and that was all that there was for me. Actually, kind of quite seriously. I met my leather big brother, Christophe Andre, who is Mr. Eagle, NYC 2006. And very simply, he was someone who, I actually met him when he was working at the Leatherman, did not know he was who he was, and he was friendly, warm, and inviting, embodied everything that our community should be. And I just took to him, and he took me under his wing. And for me, that was all that I needed to know. As far as who I am and everything that I've built myself up to be, I've looked for people who had better than I did, who had what I wanted. And he had that, and that was all that really concerned me. And I think coming from growing up in New York, I didn't really give a fuck what the rest of it looked like. I just cared about me, and I did my thing. And that's exactly how he is, and that's exactly how I learned. And all the issues that I encountered, if there were, I didn't really see them, and if I did see them, I checked them immediately. I am a big believer. I never joined any club because I was a big believer in doing things my way and making my own statement, and that's probably never ever going to change. And with that, just defining what my experience is going to be, whether you like it or not. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell.
Thank you. Dominion?
Dominion Onyx from Washington, D.C. I came to the leather scene through Onyx when I first met Mufasa and a few other people at MAL in, I guess it was 1999. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because we were the first outside event at MAL as well.
Right, but it wasn't even that.
I know.
It was just I'm nosy. And a person, I'm also a little blunt. So a person who is now dead to me invited me to come to MAL and said, you should come and hang out. And I walked in, and the reason, similar to Q, I've always grown up in spaces where I was part of the majority. I grew up in PG County. I went to high school, elementary, middle, and high schools that were mostly black. All of the people, for good or for bad, meaning from the mailman and the doctor to the postman to, frankly, the bum on the street, were black. I went to a historically black college, so I've never sought inclusion because I've always lived a life where I wasn't even bothered with what other people get. Now that could seem, if I was part of another community, racist, which doesn't mean that I was purposely excluding anyone else, but through my whole life, I've never sought the approval of anyone. I've not sought to be included. I've just moved through the world in my life and taken what I want. And I don't ask anyone. I don't wait for you to say it's okay for black people to be here. I say this is what I want and I shall have it.
Thank you.
Girl Complex. I'm from Oakland, California, and I'm the Kirk International Miss Leather 2017. I'm a month old. My journey's super long and drawn out. I'm a San Diego native. There's only like 5 black people in San Diego. And I know them all. It's just what it is. And so when I went to my first adult bookstore, I saw this Tom McFarlane picture, and I was like, oh, this is what I need to be into. But obviously, it did not reflect me because I'm a woman. I'm also black. So it took me some time, and then I moved to Virginia. We're skipping a whole bunch. I actually went to HBCU. Didn't find leather in Atlanta. Really, girl? Really? I know, right? I was too busy eating the peaches, so I wouldn't. And then I moved to Virginia, and I joined the Nighthawks of Virginia. I am the only femme in the group. There was a butch black lady as a president, and there was a butch white lady as a president years ago. But I am actually the only woman in the group currently, and the only femme. Yes. I am probably, I'm the only black person in the group as well. We have 2 other black male members, but I am the only black person in the group. Take that as you will.
Save us for lounging, not flowing.
True tea, bitch.
I am who I am.
True tea, bitch.
I decided that I needed to represent for myself and find out and carve a way for myself and for other little black girls who didn't think they could be a part because they didn't see their face represented. So I came in, I joined another club, I came in, I showed up, I showed out, I'm here, I represented it in Emerald, I'm here.
Cool. Mix.
My name is Miguel Buhanda. I'm actually a California born and raised LA boy, East LA. Living in LA, I know a lot of people are from the Midwest and from the East. And one of the things about Los Angeles is like we're very traditionally a Mexican, Latin American heavy, just geography in general, right? And one of the things is for me, living on the east side of LA, the segregation between blacks and Latinos is very, very heavy in Los Angeles. It's always been like that, from South Central to they call it the Black Flight, of those who don't know about the Barbecue riots. All that happened, and things changed a lot. There's a lot of, being, I think, a round person up here, I find it, and joining ONYX, which I'm very glad Ronnie introduced me a couple years back when I was visiting Atlanta. Take it as you will. But I was in Atlanta, and then joining, my ONYX brothers in Southwest. And joining them and being with them on a regular basis, I've learned a lot. I learned a lot not only about the LA community, but also about my black brothers and sisters, and really being part of the community. I've worked in public health for 20 years, working specifically with research and behavioral science and prevention programs for Black and Latino MSM in the Southern California area, and eventually nationally. And I just found how it's very important to really develop programs and spaces, safe spaces for people of color. And not only just because we're people of color, we're the same. We have to understand that there's so many differences. There's differences between not only our color of our skin, but also our culture, our background. One of the things a recent conversation I had, and it really brought me to just really try to learn more about other cultures, is it's how a lot, even though we're people of color and minorities, there's so much things that a lot of people don't acknowledge. You know, there's certain things as a Latino man, I don't necessarily know as being a black man. Big thing in regards to immigration, language, all these things that come into play also as a person of color, that a lot of us are, kind of privileged not to have to worry about that. And I think we have to understand that even as men of color, individuals and groups, we have certain privileges. I think we need to own that. And one of the things for me being in this particular position now is to really understand my privilege, but to be able to translate it and try to learn. Because it's not about changing people's minds. It's really about just being who you are. Hopefully, along the way, be able to educate other individuals. And that's what I'm here.
Thank you.
So my name is Counselor Ochimari ONYX, also known as Sir Ben. Just so you know, Ochimari is the name of an African deity. Look it up. Ochimari is he is a god of motion, or goddess of motion, because he's half man one part of the year and woman another part of the year. Rainbows and snakes are its symbol. The reason I mention the part about the woman is because in coming into the leather community, the term seeking inclusion is kind of strange to me, because when I look at all my credit card receipts, my name is the only name on it, so that's all I have to answer to in terms of personification. But also that women were the first to accept me, to be very honest, in the beginning of my journey and going forward. My first harness that I actually bought and felt comfortable was fitted by someone by the name of Sky Cotton, who designed it. And she asked me how I felt, not how it felt on me, but how I felt with it on there. It was the first time anyone had ever asked me that in any piece of leather that I ever bought. From there came the year that I went that Raymond happened to in IML. I think that same year I went to Toronto, and there were these two lovely entities by the name of Patty and Dee who asked me to march. Me and my friends who marched in the World Pride Parade in Canada at that time. I was pledging ONYX at that time, so I couldn't say that I was a member. And my journey went on to being a part of ONYX, which completed something for me. It was a situation where I didn't have to explain myself to people who were like me, my journey. I didn't have to retell the story of any racism that occurred outside of leather. Frankly, to be very honest, because I don't believe in giving people more power than they deserve. But I could breathe. And I didn't have to explain it ad nauseum to people who could look at me and say, I got you. So my journey now to being president of this chapter, and to some people that I love dearly, if they don't know this already, my board and members of the Great Lakes chapter. The person that I am is who embodies this leather. I can be an asshole outside of leather or inside of leather, but I'm not. Those of you who know me, I come with love, but I come with empathy, and I come with my hearing intact. We have to know what we hear and understand what we hear is the truth. And that's how I operate. That's where I am at now. And I'm honored to be asked to be here.
Thank you.
I ramble so much. So as you said, it's really important to know the background of people of color. I'm actually an ex-preacher's kid and a military brat. I was born in Nuremberg, Germany, and lived in Italy and Panama. I didn't come into the U.S. till I was 14 years old. My dad is half Panamanian. He actually got his green card and then served 26 years in the Army and became a permanent citizen. So I'm actually a first generation born U.S. Citizen in my family, and one of 5 kids. I actually found leather in Dallas, Texas. I actually started my kink leather journey as a Gorian slave on collarme.com. Then I went to TNG, which is a group for kinksters under 35. I'm only 32 years old, which is important. It's important for people under 35 to serve in leadership and be heard. So I'm going to say that there. Then I went to the National Leather Association International as the bylaws chair. I have been on that board for almost 8 years now. I am now the co-bylaws chair for ONYX Pearl Southeast. I am the media coordinator of IML, which means I not only coordinate a hand-picked team of 24 people for the social media team, but I also handle the professional media side in terms of media credentials, people wanting interviews, and also holding the brand of IML in terms of its online presence. I have served on other boards and stuff, which I don't even remember, which is why people keep telling me to write stuff down, because I'm only 32. And I guess basically for me, I actually started in the gay male leather side of things after I left TNG and went into NLA International. I was the ward under Vinci Andrews, who is the author of the Leather Boy Handbook. So again, I had a lot of grooming on the gay male leather side. I actually didn't even know that a leather culture for black people existed known as ONYX until about 8 years into my leather community. And again, I tried actually existing in the women's community and got rejected. So I went back to the gay white male community. And so for me, when I found the ONYX community, I was actually, for the first time in my life, able to exist in black culture, because most of my life I actually existed in the military culture, which is mostly white. So for me to find sisterhood within my own skin color is very new, but it's so very empowering, and also it's making me more angry every day when I figure out that when I figure out, like, I guess I could say the Ferguson riots awakened me as to what it was like being black in America versus being black outside of America versus being Panamanian outside of America, right? So I actually lost my 3 languages of Italian, Spanish, when I came into America, because America is so against diversity, even though they keep saying we're the land of the free. Right. And the Americans, but I digress. So again, that's pretty much my first 10 years of going from like holding space in white communities as a black person, then as a black leader, and then kind of going and having kind of taking a breath of fresh air in the ONYX community. So even though technically I'm not a huge like presence in the ONYX community, and in my eyes, I feel like I'm on vacation and I'm being held by the ONYX community while I hold space in the main leather community at large. So that's basically my journey for the past, I think, 10 and a half years now here.
Thank you. The first question I want to that I want the panel to just give some thoughts on. Let's go to the now. How does a person of color positively engage the conversation of inclusion within the leather community today? And anyone can answer.
It's hard to answer because I don't know. I don't know if it is. Only because there's so many different variables at play. So like whenever just from the fact, I think we all have experienced this, just as being people who even bring up the issue in the first place, you're then met with very violent responses, right? You're met with, oh, well, you're being divisive, or you're doing this and you're doing that. So that's been my general experience over the last few years that I've been trying to have these conversations. I think as far as positively affecting change within, as being a person of color in this community, I feel like it's best to kind of do what we're doing now, like having these conversations within ourselves and figuring out where to go from there, and then kind of branching out. I think because as people of color, we're meeting each other on a certain level that, you know, people outside of this room might not understand innately. I think it's easier for us to have a more in-depth kind of conversation and then kind of build out where we see fit.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comment?
What was the question again?
How do we positively, as people of color, engage the conversation of inclusion within the left community?
With whom?
With the community.
Which community?
The community.
White folks.
The larger.
The larger community.
The larger community.
The community at large.
No, because
Right.
there is a difference, and we should.
The community at large.
The community, the community at large. It depends on the type of questions I think that they ask and the type of situations. I know for me personally, it always helps that I am always secure in who I am and in my knowledge and in my position. That way, the conversation isn't. It never turns into a debate, because I clearly am, and this clearly is going to be for me, and I can hope that you can rise up to that level. And if not, be absolutely prepared to walk away. I don't have to make things okay for you. I don't have to define things for you. I am here for myself and those who are with me, and I will take care of that. And in so doing, hopefully, you'll get there. But if not, oh well.
Thank you. Others?
So, I will give you one.
No, go for it.
You know, I struggle with this word inclusion because, you know, I think it's personal.
Please project your voice.
Because, yes. You know, the word inclusion for me, I struggle with because what does that mean? Does that mean if I walk into a bar, I want you to like me? Or does that mean I walk into the bar and don't charge me any different amount of money than anybody else that comes in that's white, and you'll respect me, and I walk into the door and don't talk to me different than any other white person or who else that comes in? So inclusion has been a struggle for me in this because this right here is it. I'm trying to understand what else further other than to respect me that I need to seek. So I struggle with inclusion. I don't have an issue of going any place that I want to go to. If they don't like me, I could care less. But, you know, I don't walk in there, it's like, oh my God, you know, they didn't like the outfit that I just bought. I spent $500 on this. And nobody's posted it on Facebook. I only got 3 likes. Ruined. But then the other person that wore it is 50 likes, and then wearing the same outfit. I mean, I'm not there with that because this journey is so personal, and I have already been given the inclusion spiritually. What else am I seeking? And
Presence is power. Presence is power.
Sorry.
You know, I find it interesting because you know, when I started going to the other clubs, I did notice it was primarily white, and I was just kind of like, all right, where do I belong? But then I started realizing that the older I became, and I left the so-called scene, the dance parties, the clubs and stuff. In the area in Los Angeles, it's West Hollywood, right? So I moved over. I kind of transferred over to Silver Lake, which was really that. You transfer, and then I gave you a promotion. No, and then I moved over to this club. But then I found out that and I hear you. I hear what he's talking about inclusion. And I don't think it's necessarily that I have to feel included. My thing is, what's my presence? What am I going to do here? And ultimately, when I'm talking to people, I know they got their shit going on. They're more worried about what people are thinking about them than worried about what they're thinking about me. So when I go in there, I go in with the attitude is like, look, I'm a little self-conscious sometimes, you know, and I sometimes like, you know, is my outfit cute?
You gotta worry about that.
It is.
You don't have to wear that. But the thing is that I'm more worried about the way I look than thinking about what the guy is doing or saying. To the point where I just come to realize that that's everybody. Everyone's more concerned with their own personal self-reflection than the. And so my thing is, when somebody says something stupid, and then believe me, it's said a lot in all these clubs when it comes to racial divide, I notice a lot of it comes from ignorance. Sometimes you're just an asshole. But the reality is, when the people that are a little ignorant, I'm like, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'll try to engage them. And if they respond, great. If they don't, fuck you, then move on. Just leave it. I'm not going to waste my time. But I think when it comes to when engaging somebody who really wants to learn, do you teach them? You give them the information. But you can't expect them to change. Give them, let them have the opportunity to grow. And if they want to, then great. If they don't, then you just wasted a moment with me.
Thank you.
So I think it's important to understand, and you know, one of the things that I try to do is see all sides of the picture. And regardless of whether this panel specifically, whether we consider ourselves, you know, sort of dominant or submissive, we are all alpha type personalities. So the way that we translate through the world is different. And so I think what you're hearing, the common theme here is that we sort of don't give a fuck. But that's probably because we are alpha type people, and alpha type people go into a room, wreck shop, get what they need, and keep it moving. But everybody is not like that. So the conversation about inclusion is going to be different for people who aren't confident. Not, I mean, confident is the wrong word. Comfortable being that person that's out there and being either confrontational or educational. And so I think that inclusion for people who are not as comfortable doing that starts with personal education. So the way that you are confident, become confident to be that person, is knowing who you are. Knowing what it is that you want. So when people bring bullshit to you, like, you know, if you know, because some of us may appear to be submissive but are dominant, and people will come to you a certain way. I think, not to stereotype Asians, but I've had this conversation with a number of Asians where people come to them and assume that if you're an Asian boy, an Asian male, that you're going to be submissive. And I had a conversation with someone who was very angry about that, because he's like, you just made a whole assumption about the entirety of my being. So my thing is that, you know, don't let people tell you who you are. Educate yourself and be comfortable with who you are inside. So that's like the first step of understanding inclusion, so that you can be comfortable or at least be aware of those things. Because sometimes we just don't see things that are going on. And then also depend on your family. This is your family. Build your own family. And, you know, rest upon them. And so the last thing I'll say is that the very first time I went to the DC Eagle, Rodney McCoy and I, so we're sitting at the bar, and we had just gotten there, and the bartender comes up to us and says, it's a 2-drink minimum. And listen, I tend to ignore most foolishness, so I was like, okay. So, you know, we had to go get cash or something, and then I'm about to get a drink, and the same dude comes to us and says, it's a 2-drink minimum. And I was like, dude, I get that it's a 2-drink minimum, but we just walked in here, and you didn't say that to anyone else that was here. And so I wrote a letter to the mayor. So what you have to do is understand.
Who was the mayor at the time?
The mayor it wasn't Marion Barry, so that's all that matters. You have to be comfortable and educated enough to know your rights, know that you have the place in it. And that inclusion does not require confrontation, but it requires knowing who you are and how to operate in the world. So,
why are we even having this conversation?
Well, and you know what? I think it's important to have to. I, from my perspective, when it comes to inclusivity, I can speak from it in the terms of I feel like, and again, this is from my perspective because I came from the community at large and then went into ONYX. So for me, I felt like the community accepted me as a woman and they tolerated me as a black person. So right, so like I was able to navigate within the culture because I was a pretty woman. And then they tolerated my blackness whenever I was like, oh, I don't really feel it. And they're like, well, she's pretty and she's intelligent and she's a woman and like we'll just deal with it. And then when I became more self-aware, as I've become more self-aware about how the community at large tends to make the black community as a whole uncomfortable, and there's in the spaces that we sometimes have to navigate in, it's made me realize how lucky I am in certain areas of in terms of privilege and in terms of inclusivity. And so I've actually had to turn around, and in terms of inclusivity, I hold space in an educational set, and the fact that even though I'm included in spaces, I still get questions of, oh, is that all your hair? And I'm like, yes, I have all the receipts, it's all my hair. Relationship with one B, F130, and then I am the top of this hair. This is my power. Thank you for, and so I have to have these conversations, even though they accept me as a woman and a pretty woman, they don't understand or know how or want to accept me as a black person. So again, this whole, when it comes to inclusivity, I'm like, how do you want to include me? Do you want to include me because I'm pretty and you're trying to meet a statistic, or do you want to include me because of the skills that I have to bring at the table? Or you're trying to include me because you need grant money to do the Title IX thing, or you're trying to include me? So again, the reason why we have to have this conversation is because we have to change the narrative, as in, why are you wanting to include me, and how are you going to include me? And then that will determine whether or not I want to insert myself in your space, because I don't need your space. I have my space.
Well, what do we do when we meet resistance?
Resist.
We've had, and the conversation has come up because in the last few months, 48 hours, or even in the last,
as of Thursday, there
have been incidents at the Flying Bar in Baltimore, and at other places, and even here in the hotel. The ONYX dance 2 years ago, that we have met some resistance as to, again, we're here, but are you not, someone fell out at the dance. They didn't fall out because it was hot, because there was a whole lot of us there that didn't fall out. They fell out because they had drank too much before they got there, and they fell out, but blamed the hotness and blamed us for having too many people inside the dance. And so therefore you get a relationship, there's an incident and a relationship that then is pervasive and moves forward. So then how do you, with the bar, with the people of color spaces that we need, or with anything that we're doing, how do we deal with that resistance? I mean, because some people are concerned, and some people are not concerned.
Exactly.
With numbers. That fire marshal said, you all have however many, 600, 700, da-da-da-da-da. I said, no, we don't, because you were just here half hour ago, and you said we were well under that.
So,
we're not doing this.
It's numbers, it's resistance, it's education about, first of all, what our rights are. It's about when you meet resistance to people who have a problem with your being. I mean, what are you supposed to do to that? What are you supposed to do that? If someone says, I don't want you in this space because you're a woman, I mean, at some level, there's not a whole lot you can do when people don't want to give you a part of their space, and so My thing is we take the spaces that we need of our own. We build our own shit. This is the entire reason that this organization exists, is because people would not give us the space to be what it is that we want it to be, so we created our own.
And now they can't get out of our house. Oh, girl.
Because they want control, and so I'll piggyback off of that. Why we create our spaces, and then they see that we're enjoying ourselves and we're having fun, and because we're not struggling, that means they don't have control. So then they try and take over, and then we say no, get the fuck out, because we need our celebration. Like this whole perpetual of resistance, you know. And I was just having this conversation with Aisha because I was just like, why do black women not attend EMSO? And I was like, because we can't afford it, and then when they asked us to come, that's and plus 14 volunteer hours, but they saw our skin color, and it's because we were sitting behind the desk volunteering and not really enjoying the event, but they were able to get the numbers and the presence. So again, Aisha and I were talking about the fact of build our own spaces, right? So that means dumping money into a bank account to get 2 suites up at the hotel, so that we don't have to work hard like the mammies at the event in order for them to say, oh, there was black women present. No, what we're going to do is we're going to work hard to show up and say, hey, we're women who are black who can have fun, and we don't have to show ourselves as if we're struggling financially. We're going to show up like we're at church with our church hats and our fashion, and say, hi, thanks for inviting us. Yes, we're here, but now we're going to go back home to our spaces where we don't have to struggle as much. Like again, so that resistance sometimes is numbers. It's showing up, but showing up in a way that empowers us and not gives them the control all the time. So always think about that when they ask you, hey, do you want to come? Always negotiate economically. And in terms of visibility, in terms of education, okay, if you let us show up, can we teach a class about our culture? Okay, if you let us show up, can we not have to volunteer, or can you give us a steep discount because we're a marginalized population, and economics shows us that black people don't get paid as much, and women don't get paid as much, and black women don't get paid as much, even though we have all the degrees. Like, negotiate. Negotiate. If they want you to be there, then yes, prove your, obviously they see worth in you, and then make them work for it. Like, we are quality. If they want quantity, then they should show us how qualifying we are and open the doors for us instead of us always having to shove through.
I want to piggyback on what you said. The same way that we want them to show, we want to show that to them, we also have to do that in our group too. We can't keep wanting each other to work for free and then turn around and want them to give us. So we have to teach and learn within, so that we know how to appropriate ourselves when we go out.
Yes. So here's what I would say is how you would resist. This room is an act of resistance. The very fact that we have in this room is an act of resistance. If you think that people wanted this to be a success, you are fooling yourself.
Amen.
This is your act of resistance. Tomorrow will be your act of resistance when you get up in the morning in spite of the person who told you that I don't want you to get up tomorrow morning. Your act of resistance is the fact that you put on that piece of leather, although someone said to you, you don't look good in it, or you shouldn't have it, and you wear it anyway. First thing I say to people is that we need to know what our power is and acknowledge what we have already. You do not walk into a room in weakness in this environment. You can't do that. And some people don't come to their season soon enough yet to know that. And our role of those of us who are alpha is to support and guide those to that point. Secondly, to also be the defenders and speak out for our sisters. And we were outraged last night. And we will continue to be outraged beforehand on those things that are unacceptable. But understand where you have your power now. We are already resisting by our existence.
I think that, it's kind of a common theme on this panel, but I think that the important part is knowing who we are, knowing the power that we have, and not being afraid of it, not apologizing for it. Like, knowing who we are as black people, knowing what our history is, knowing that we shouldn't have to, knowing that the notion that we even have to ask for space in the first place is bullshit, and we shouldn't even be bending over to that. We should be demanding our space, knowing that just in our existence, knowing that our existence is good enough in and of itself, that we shouldn't have to be asking the people who put us in this position in the first place to have to ask them to then give us space. Like, I want us to always understand, like, just the fact that we're in this room having this conversation is resistance, yes, but I also want people to understand the fact that we even have to have this conversation when we didn't cause the problem in the first place. That is fucked up in and of itself. So I always want us to never lose sight of that it is important for us to have these conversations, yes, and I'm glad we're having it, but also we shouldn't, like, think of the fact that the people who are, you know, responsible for this shit in the first place, they're out having their drinks, cruising, having fun, not a care in the world right now. We're the ones who are burdened right now with thinking of this shit. So that's the issue in and of itself. What did I just do?
But 22 years ago, I walked in here before I was Scion Flair. Yes. I was a little nigga coming from Detroit's dirty hood, boo. In my pumps. I was the butch queen up in pumps. My dear friend and brother, Eric Robinson, who's a leather brother, has said, this is your first email, and I was nervous as fuck. Why? Because of everything you're discussing. So I will try not to repeat what's already been mentioned. I want you all to know that the power of everything that's been said has helped me to be present even more than I was trying or thought or hoped to be 22 years ago, because it was a horrible experience. And I walked in here with booty shorts, a tank top, and pumps before it was commonplace like it is. So when we talk about knowing our history, it is important to pay attention which bitch you saw first. If you're offended by that word, please note, don't take it personal. But I really was very one of the few. When it was the ONYX party, because that's why he brought me, because he said, you gonna see us. When we went, it was, I think, one of the first.
It was the first.
The first. When I tell you, the ONYX family grabbed me quicker than the entire leather community, it was years before they said, oh, that bitch knows how to talk. Oh, he has a record, or he sings, he performs. But I was already here. But the ONYX man was the only, am I lying, bro? The only group that said, you are welcome here. I was getting cussed out. I was being told, you don't belong here by the old guard. I was not in leather. My shoes were. My pumps were. This testimony is for those of you who lose sight in the fight. This is to let you know that I evolved, and I never, ever ignored or forgot, downplayed, or anything, just respected the power of what the ONYX is representing. So everything that you have heard, please take it in, because I am a living witness that you can beat it, and you can override all of this. Why? Because when somebody, it wasn't somebody, when some motherfucker was saying, what are you doing here? Somebody said, you belong here. And it was the ONYX men first. And that tradition is carried over to all types of things. But they got me. They saw me. You all made me feel exactly what you're telling us to feel. You all lived and exemplified for me, for Robert, for Scion, for me. It was why it was so important that every year, every time I could support. Because it is in your act of understanding what they're telling you, you have to do the work as somebody who's an onlooker, somebody who's a first-timer. You have to take exactly what they're saying and embody that. And I want to thank you for continuing this, because this, again,
is powerful. Thank you for letting me have my moment.
We also want to recognize that Scion is a full honorary member.
Yeah.
So we thank you for being who you are in our lives.
I love you.
Absolutely, I agree with everything you said, but there's one thing that, the first thing that came to my mind when you asked that question, and the one thing that I didn't hear that I think is absolutely important when it comes to resisting is, call it out. Call it out exactly as it is. And what I mean by that is, we all are of color. We know what we go through. This room is fantastic. I challenge all of y'all to take this outside. And when it happens, when things happen to you, as he did, you call it right there. What did you just say to me? Why is this not happening right now? I'm sorry, what? Because this is what you just did. This is what I'm feeling. And you do that in person, not on Facebook. Don't be the damn, not on Twitter, not on Instagram. You do that in person. You do that in the places and spaces where it actually matters.
Thank you. So where do we go from here?
The party.
Right.
Boom. Well, so I think one of the places that we go, remember,
Panels up here. Panels up here.
very, very serious. Big muscular dude, brother. I think one of the things that's important for us to remember, people say that, everyone that is your color ain't your color. And I saw that personally when we went to the Dominican Republic, because all I saw was a bunch of black people. That's all I saw. But I remember that there were a very specific group of people who came to us as black Americans and said, "You're my color." They were Haitians, meaning that we saw each other. They saw in us that we all acknowledge that we are black. So the first thing you're going to have to do is remember that everybody who has your skin color or your same chromosomes ain't on your side. And accept that and keep it moving and just leave them alone, because they will either get along or they'll get left. So you find those that are willing to work with you, and you build upon that. And it's about the numbers, and it's about showing up, and it's about being who you are and saying all these things outside of this room. We would have never achieved what minimal gains we have from the 50s until now if everybody had just stayed in the church listening to Martin, or in the temple listening to Malcolm. Because you talk all the shit you want in this temple. It's what you do when you get outside of the room, and how you show up and how you live that life. And again, that life doesn't always mean, standing in front of the bus. It doesn't mean boycotting. It may not mean those things. It means something. So you have to have a plan for what you're going to do. You can't just go through your life allowing things to happen to you. You have to have an action plan for what you want to happen.
So I'm going to piggyback off of you really quick with what you said in terms of what you do outside of the room. So again, I have the opposite experience. I'm coming into the room to breathe, right? Versus outside of the room, when I'm holding space, again, I'm in a position of leadership. And again, my ability to be able to handpick people in my department, I've been given the power, and now I'm passing the power forward to empower other people, so that I'm not the only one standing in the mainstream environment, right? So I'm empowered, and the more that I'm empowered and I'm able to be kind of like the ambassador of empowerment and white privilege checking, I'm able to bring people along and be like, okay, I've created this space. It's kind of tiny, but it's like super awesome and fun, and I have all these like power rules. So come in and hang out in my space and do the thing. Versus, so there's people like me who hang out in the mainstream community holding space, and then there's the ONYX community who are the temple creators and the temple makers, so that there's celebration of us and the temple, and then there's those of us who have the spoons and the energy to deal with the stuff, to be able to come in and breathe, and then you have those who are just lost. because they're not self-aware, they're not awakened, and they are, even though they are of our skin tone, they haven't been made aware of who they are, what they can give, and why they are. So again, it's not like, don't be distracted by that, one. And two, if they're wanting to become self-aware, they will find the intelligence to find the road back home, like again I did, because I didn't know it existed, and then when I knew it existed, it was like GPS, go home time, right? So, and that again allowed me to even have a bigger energy tank to hold space in order to build bigger space, like the claw class, like me having an I Am Male wingman patch as a black woman, as the only third woman in the entire existence of IML, right? So that's me like resisting, my existence is resisting. So again, it's really important that even though people are of our skin color, that it's not that we want to bash them down, it's just be like, don't be distracted by them. Keep doing what you need to do, because what you're doing is you're paving the way for others to become behind you. And then you have those of us who are making the highways and the buildings and the edifices, and then we come home to church. We come home to ONYX, and we rebuild. So keep that in mind.
Thank you. We have to move on. Last comment here, and then I want one comment from one of the individuals on the panel, because we have to move through. Again, this is just the beginning of an ongoing conversation. And we want you to know that we are here, we are family, you can reach out to any of us online at any time. We don't bite unless you ask. So be aware of that, because we are family. There's a comment here.
So just the other thing I was going to say is, the conversations that we're having here today mirror what we do in life. So it mirrors what we do in life, and we can't forget that. We come into what we want to create as a safe space, or a fun space, or a space to experiment or grow, and you make it what you want it to be. You don't come in and do what is. You make it what you want it to be. Eli and I had a very good conversation long before the Patty incident, talking about what our equity is. And that's really what it's about. So when I go to events like this, or anything that I do in life, what challenges me is we also have to learn to respond effectively, which is what I liked what you said. And I liked what you said, Dominion. When we were at Claw, we had a problem. It wasn't with a white person. It was with a black taxi driver who tried to take advantage of us. And I certainly read him. And we need to call it out. I work in addictions and mental health. You can't work with an addict or a person with mental health issues if you don't say, are you suicidal? What you're telling me means you have a plan, so you are suicidal. We need to let people know where they have crossed a boundary. But we have to learn to do it effectively. Many of us flip our lids, and you're right, we go to social media, but we don't address the problem with the person or the institution. So like Dominion, and I said I was going to do this, my lovely little friend Bill, because most people don't know that I'll be nasty and a hot minute. But Bill, I challenged him, but I did write a letter. I wrote a letter to the hotel and said, you have a series of taxis that sit on the side street that you bring up for those of us that stay in your establishment. We had a wonderful stay, and we had great support. Here's the problem. This is a taxi number. The man is a person of color, didn't put the meter on, and I challenged him within a block and said, you don't have the meter on. I'm not an idiot. We get to the next location, it's $10. No, actually, we've been going back 3 and 4 times. We've never paid more than $5.75. Why is it $10? Now it's you want to be my brother. Why? I'm just trying to make a buck. Okay, that's a problem. So it's not just about the white community. And I said, I don't blame you for the taxi driver, but I want you to be aware of it. Because not only is he taking advantage of us, because we think black folks aren't going to take advantage of us. But he's probably
Everybody's drinking.
taking advantage of other people. And that is what is inappropriate. So I want you to know, because I can't fix the taxi driver. I called him out. I wasn't paying no $10. And I made that clear. So we do have to advocate. Now, the other thing is then follow up with it. And I didn't write a nasty letter about the hotel, and I didn't even talk about how I thought he was nasty. I just made it very clear this is inappropriate, it's unprofessional from one person to another person of color. I have an issue with it. But he also really tried to swindle us. And I am concerned about this reflection of your hotel, because let me be clear, I let a number of people know. So they may consider not staying here. They may stay here, but they may not if this issue isn't addressed. Those are the kinds of things we need to do, because we will get an attitude in a minute. But what we don't do, and that's what we fall into, they see us as the angry black man or woman. Not that we don't have reason to be. And there are times to get a little nasty, I throw some attitude. But there are times when we have to use our equity, your mind, your pen and paper, your words, but also you have to show, that's it, because it boils down to economic equity. So if there's major issues, those are the things we can say here. If there's issues that we're having, we can talk about it as a group, but we can write letters to the people who plan this or the hotel. We can't blame them, it's not their fault, but these are some of the issues that come up, and these are things we need to start talking about as we plan other events. So that's one of the things that really concerns me, is sometimes we flip the script, but we do ourselves a disservice because we don't do the follow-through. We don't write the letters. We don't say this can have an impact economically, because then what we're doing is we're still allowing them to not be held accountable. That's a problem.
And that's where we'll end this for the moment.
Quickie.
Yes.
Pray for us, pray for us who is running for IML. We've got to go back some personality right now. With permission from the panel, is it okay if I post this on the ONYX Men YouTube page?
Yes.
Just want to make sure. So
make sure you got my best angles. So.
Talk to the cameraman.
Also,
I tried.
Before we are moving, I want to thank the panel. I know, again, this is just a tip of the iceberg about the conversation, but I really want to thank you for accepting the invitation to sit with us. We do have two things before they get started with the demo, and that will take place right after the panel clears, and they will set up and they will start right in. So we will be finished by 3:30, so people can get on to other things that they need to do. We thank the contestants. They are going to prepare for PECs and Personality this evening, but also we have a brother in need. The Sir of our own Sir Eli, Sir Negrum, is transitioning. Many of you know him from many years ago, many years in the community. He's had both legs amputated and is actively transitioning, but in a lot of pain as this is happening. And anything that we can do as a family, we often pass the boot, pass the hat, or pass whatever. But anything is accepted, and we will have somebody at the door, or we'll pass the hat around. There's a cowboy hat here that holds a lot. But we'll pass the hat.
You saying you got a big head?
Anything that you can donate for Sir Negrum, we'll accept it tonight. Today, we'll accept it at the dance tonight as well. If you need to find me, you can give it directly to me if you don't have it with you. But anything, $1, $10, $5, the offering plate is here for support in aiding his transition. But I do want to say that. I do want to thank the panel also. Who are we? Is there somebody, Ja? Can you find a receptacle of some sort? But Ja will be the person who will come down the aisle and collect for us. And then, okay, Girl Complex has one last thing.
Two things. Come see me, Step Aside at IMSL 2018, April 19th to 22nd in San Jose, California. Yes. As Taisha said, we're working on getting more representation from black women, and we're trying to get some donations collected. We're working on the process. So there's a space for black women who can't afford housing at IMSL, but they can get there to make sure they can show up. And also, I went to Clark Atlanta University. Our motto is make a way or find one. And my other models are a seat at the table, or I'll take it from here. So I don't allow somebody to tell me I can't have it. I'll take it. If you need help, take it. Your spot. Come find me.
Please, if you're going to donate, is there. Give us 2 or 3 minutes to set up for the demo, and then the demo will happen.